Hey, it's Jeff Timborello. I am the director of the Southwest Florida REIA. I'm also the broker owner of Steelbridge Realty, here to talk about the market. This was the topic of our July 2019 Southwest Florida General Meeting. Disclosure, this is my work done for me and shared with you. This isn't really a professional type nor like institutional type presentation. This is just more me sharing with you what I see going on in the market. The data was exported from the MLS on July the 16th. So what does wine and metrics have to do with you and your success? It's really an interesting thing. It's a study. They took a bunch of high-end wine connoisseurs and they fed them $10 wines and $100 wines. And ironically, they picked out the $10 wines as the better wines. And then those same wine connoisseurs immediately went back to drinking $100 wines. So it's not really what you learn; it's what you take action with on metrics. And the key to it is, anytime you're looking at metrics within a market, is to strip off your biases and just strictly look at what's going on. Some thoughts: there's four basic metrics to track in any real estate market. Volume, this is the king of and supply and demand rules. Volume is the number one thing to track. Is the market growing or declining? First basic answer in any market. Then you've got your sales counts, then you've got your average price, then you've got your median price. I even track like percentage of elevators and a lot of stuff like that have over the years I've done for specific reasons, but these four are the big things to track in any market. Year to date, January through June, volume was down 4%, the counts were down 2%, the average was down 1.16%, and the median's up 0.48%, which is bad. It could have been worse. It's definitely not 07 coming out of 06, but it was not positive growth. And the volume being down was the biggest thing that had me watching. Now, year to date, our cash sales is still pretty good, 41.3% from 42. So that's a good thing. And the Gulf access counts were actually up. So 1.7% more. And right now, the Gulf access percentage is 15%. So year over year, we're actually doing better in Gulf access, and that's because the water's cleaned up. But you'll get a little bit more of that story here in a second. Now let's talk about May and June. Up 5% in volume. Our counts were up 3%. Average is up 2%, and median's up 1.3%. I honestly feel a lot of this is due to the water quality being good, in spite of the fact that the media is still pushing the narrative pretty hard. Cash percentage, with this increase, the cash percentage for these 2 months was last year 38.14, this year 37.3. So this growth is not being driven primarily by leverage. If you'd have seen the leverage shoot way up and the cash go down, that's another metric to pay attention to. And the counts year over year in those 2 months were up 12.65%. That's pretty awesome. I say I'm in there too. Me and Christina bought a Gulf access house in North Fort Myers. At the time I did this, we had 4.97 months inventory. And there isn't, other than above $1 million, there's nothing very scary. The 300 to 700 though, you're either priced right or you're not. And that's an asset class that you really have to pay attention, particularly if you're in an expensive property to keep, say a high HOA fee or high taxes. At some points in season, as a market, we were over 7 months inventory. So this is a really great thing. Now, our citywide metrics for inventory: Bonita Springs is 6 months, Cape Coral's 4, Alva's 7. Nothing really jumping out. Fort Myers Beach with 8. I think they're still feeling the effects. But one thing that really got me was the average sale out there, 720, and the average list price is 481, 622. So there's a disconnect everywhere within the market with an average sales to average list. There's a big disconnect at the beach, but Bonita too. But the moral of this, if you price something within the closed comps, it's generally gone pretty quick. Asset inventory metrics. When I look at single-family homes are basically the most overpriced thing with detached villas. It's not a big asset anyways behind it. High-rise condos, 22%, but they're actually doing better than they were. Manufactured homes are probably the best performing asset class that we have in the market. They had a great season. They're having an even better time now, and that's just because it's affordable. And there's only 11% different in those asset classes. Now the cities, this is year to date. Lots of red all over. Didn't do well. Bonita's doing great, and St. James City's doing great. North Fort Myers doing great, and Lehigh's actually doing pretty good too. Now May to June, there's a lot less red, so that's a really good thing. This is the Lee County pricing from January of 01 forward. It's a running spreadsheet I maintain. Now, everybody wants to compare this cycle to this cycle. Now, this right here is what differentiated the last cycle. See how it took a while to happen? This was overnight. Oh, in a year, we jumped up, I think it was 38% in 1 year. When you see this happen is when you want to get out the playbook for this. Such a gradual rise up will probably be a much more gradual drop. This was a sharp run up and a sharp drop down, and it generally always overcompensates on the correction. Pretty much always, not always, but 99.9% of the time, you will always overcorrect farther down than you corrected on the upside. Now, since 2009, this shows you the market bottom and then just kind of run up. Since 15, you can it's still rising, but not as much. And from 17 forward, you're looking at a normal market with seasonal jumps in pricing. Notes on pricing from 2017 forward is basically our seasonal modalities with a little bit of inflation tied on it, stacked on top of it. And every year, transactions and prices tend to be above the trend in the winter and below the trend in the summer and fall, which is kind of the opposite if you're from up north. Bubbles of activity. This is a chart we use to make sure we're in the market when we're taking assets to market. 2018, you're missing that, but in 2019, you've got a lot more activity from 210 out. May to June, same thing. A little less activity in the 170, 190 range, but a whole lot of activity from 270 up, actually 210 up, and even a little bit here. And then by year built, this was the year-to-date, January through June. You can look and see the predominant asset class of trading is still the 5, 6, 7, with new builds right behind it, which is a great thing. But we built a lot of these. We built a lot of homes in this time frame, so it's going to dominate the market as far as that vintage. And then May to June, when you look at it, we're actually lagging behind in inventory on the new side. And I think particularly December, January scared some of the builders, and the permits are slowing down just a little bit, but not enough to matter in the bigger scheme. But we're going to lack inventory, which lack of inventory will either push buyers to resales or will push buyers into another market. Now, changing demographics. At the REIA meetings, we've discussed the baby boomers many times. We're primarily driven by incoming retirees. They make their biggest splash the first 2 years in this market. And you got to understand, though, this life's a linear experience, and we're all walking on a level of time. So you essentially take the birth rates of this country and you walk it across a level, and that tells you what's going to happen. We were pretty good at pegging the market upturn. We were pretty good at pegging a couple slowdowns using the baby boomer demographics. But what does the future hold? Peter Thiel has more money than all of us, I promise you, unless somebody on the Fortune 500 above him is watching this. It's a great quote by him. We are more fascinated today by statistical predictions of what the country will be thinking in a few weeks' time than by visionary predictions of what the country will look like 10 to 20 years from now. That is a great quote. That's why he has more money than most people. Now, the current demographics of home buyers. This is from NAR. This was a great chart. I kind of give NAR grief, but this is a really great chart. And it shows not only by percentages who the buyers are in the market, it gives you a median age, which is great for marketing purposes. This is the wild card coming forward to Gen Z, and we're actually at Steelbridge, we are putting Gen Z people as first-time home buyers into properties, which is awesome. And they're definitely not going to launch as late as the millennials. Generally, that late launch is the older millennials, okay? And the younger millennials are starting to kick in too. Now, here's the baby boomers. We're tracking 62 years of age from the live births. There's not as much immigration in the baby boomers as the generations in front of it, so the live births really work. But you can tell, particularly this is a great rule and guide for properties in the 55 and up world. As of 2023, the new batches of buyers start to decline out. It's just Father Time, it's inevitable. should be some sort of a correction in that asset class. You're just going to have, as that asset class churns generally from probate to new retiree, and you're going to have probates come up that are going to not have as many retiree buyers, which is a huge opportunity. A little closer view on the boomer metrics of what's about to happen. So if you're holding some 55 and up assets, it may be time to evaluate them at some point in this time frame, unless you like them and you plan on owning them and then own them. Now, about the millennial generation, one thing that's vastly overlooked, because this generation is kind of the whipping post of social media. A large percent of that, not a large, a decent percent of that generation served in the military and was at war. I'm a former Marine. I know former Marines that were millennials that in 8 years had 6 combat tours. So in a lot of reasons, the global war on terror, the Great Recession, this generation was a bit delayed in the launching and the life, which kind of helped out because the Great Recession caused the baby boomers to kind of press pause for their retirement plans. So in a way, the universe just kind of balanced it out. Now, from the millennials forward, this is one of the most immigrated generations we have data for, with Gen Z being higher than that. This is tracking 32 years of age. This is a great indicator for those late millennial buyers. I'm finding they're not buying as many entry-level homes as you would think. They're buying nicer homes because they're older and they're starting to actually make some money. But you can look 2022 for the older millennials to here. Now, this is the later millennials, 28 years of age as well. You got a nice spike in 2028. Now, all of them on the same chart, honestly, from 2026 forward, actually really, 2023 forward, it's time to have your head on a swivel. It should be some great opportunities, and it'll be a market that is uncertain from a couple sectors. Then there's Gen Z, wild card coming behind the millennials. There's a ton of them. There's over 65 million of them. By 2020, Gen Z will account for 40% of all consumers. They're also the most diverse generation to date. My company, we currently have 2 contracts working. I'm doing, the day I'm doing this video, they both close next week. And they're not appearing to be following the trends of the late blooming millennials. The ending thoughts, 55 and up assets will have fewer buyers starting in 2023. Always remember that a lower price will allow more to purchase than may not have been able. So a slight correction will actually draw more people here that would like to buy, but our prices have kind of locked them out. And once they buy here, they're going to probably need their lawn mowed. They're going to need services. They go out, they buy cars. They do a lot of great things. And retirees, for the most part, just bleed into the economy. They don't actually work and take dollars out. They're an amazing thing for our market. At some point, I feel there's going to be some tremendous opportunities in the 55 and up in the luxury market. And why I say the luxury market is, when's the last time you've seen a 30-year-old buy $1 million house? There's always going to be buyers in that asset class. And particularly if there's a lot of value on a nice asset, there's always a buyer. But something to keep in mind, that as the home buying becomes much more younger, the luxury market may, I'm not going to say correct, but it may suffer. 300K and below should have buyers for the foreseeable future. Personally, for flips, I'm focused on 220 and below. And Gen Z is really the wild card here. How is Southwest Florida going to react and evolve is a huge question, because we've traditionally always been a retiree market. And something that, while they come here at 62, they're still living here much past that for the most part. So there's going to be a lot of baby boomers if you're in a service-related business to do business with. We're just not going to have as many new incoming ones. And probates are going to be all the rage in a few years. I hope this information is useful to you. If it was, please give us a like, a share. And if you got any comments, or if you think I got something wrong, please leave me a comment or shoot me an email. This is what I use for you, and if I made it, or for me, and if I made a mistake, I really want to know. Thanks for watching.